everyone, and welcome. We are talking this week about writing and overwriting and rewriting and all those things that keep you from moving forward in your writing project. So, let me know where where you're watching from, and I'm going to take that little banner off right now. But anyway, let me know where you're watching from, and I'll say hi to you. Make sure to, say hi. So this week we're talking. This is our Writer Challenge series, part 3. We've talked about several different things, and I just wanted to keep going with this because I know that there's several different things that challenge us as writers. And one thing I see over and over and over again is writing and writing and writing. And it's like you got to write. And sometimes it's the one word that you're writing again. And sometimes it is the same sentence, the same paragraph, or the same chapters over and over and over again. Hi, Ken from Central Illinois. Um, always a faithful watcher here, viewer and participant. I appreciate it, Ken. So we're talking about rewriting, and if any of this that I'm talking about might sound like you, it's not you. It's me too, because I have rewritten the same paragraph, the same chapter multiple times, and just not gone on with the story. And then I realize, it's a day later, 2 weeks later, that I'm still working on the same chapter. So what we're going to talk about is, when should I stop rewriting? When is it time to let it go and keep going? So the challenge is that we're trying to find the right words. We're trying to rewrite. We're trying to um, get the perfect words to describe a scene, to describe a character, describe dialogue. A lot of times, for myself, I'll say the words, I'll walk around, I'll do the gestures that the characters are doing, and it just doesn't seem right. Even to the point of like where they pick up a cup of coffee or something and they're drinking it. But the thing is we can rewrite and write the same scene multiple times, and at some point we got to let it go. Some point we just have to say, this is it. I'm done. Even though it's not perfect, and that's the one thing you can admit to yourself. You can say it's not perfect, but I need to move on. So, um, so how do you do that? Well, you write the scene, you write the chapter, get to the end of the chapter. If you need to reread it for the next day or whenever you start writing again, that's a good thing. But just don't spend all your time tweaking what you did the day before, because you can get on this endless loop of tweaking and perfecting and getting frustrated and then deleting and starting over again, because you're always going to question yourself. And sometimes it takes a bunch of chapters to get into the book before you realize that either A, you made a mistake and you need to fix something, or B, well, there's probably C, D, and E too. But so, hi, Laquita. I appreciate you being here. Um, it's, but the thing is so you're going to write it, and then you're going to want to rewrite it. But the best thing is to get it down and stop. Just write it that one time, or tweak a couple of words. If there's something that's really bugging you, highlight it in yellow. Then you can go backwards, and um you can look at it later. And I've found, appreciate that. Thank you. I found that sometimes when I'm writing, I will want to just keep writing it, but that doesn't help. It doesn't help your story move forward. And a lot of times, the farther ahead you move in the story, you realize that you needed the things that were in the first chapter or the second or the third. So, how to fix it? Write the paragraph, write the chapter, and then just walk away, let it go. And then, like I said, if you're writing day and day and day, then go back, reread it so you know where you're at. My favorite thing is to always write a chapter and then write at least a couple paragraphs of the next chapter, so I kind of know where I'm at, and then I don't need to reread the one before. But resist the urge to rewrite, resist the words to tweak. Like I said, highlight it if you want to, but don't tweak it then. Keep going. get the story that's in your head. Now, if you are an outliner, it'll be a little bit easier because you've got an outline and you're writing to an outline. For me, excuse me, for me, I'm a pantser. So I sit down and you're welcome. Um, let's see. Ken says, I was working on the funeral chapter and it seemed boring or just off. So for that, Ken, I would suggest finish the chapter and keep going. Just keep going. Don't keep rewriting it and rewriting it and rewriting it. Just get to the next chapter. And I think for you though that you've written most of your book and you're going back and tweaking. So the thing is for this mostly applies to first drafts. So if hold on a second. Excuse me about that. If you're this is your first draft, this is when you need to go through it and just get it down on paper. But if you're going through a second draft, that's when you can rewrite it. But don't keep agonizing over one paragraph or one scene. You know, you can always go back and tweak it later because you'll be stuck. Now, if it seemed boring or just off, Ken, do you know why it seems boring? Why does it seem boring to you? Is it because not enough stuff is going on? There's not enough action? I mean, funerals are not necessarily, I mean, they can be very action filled, or they can be very solemn. But if it seems like it's off, think about it. Think about why you feel like it's off and what you can do to fix it. Yes, Laquita, when you're getting your first draft down, it's better just to do the whole thing, get it done, and then go back and fix it. I got a little froggy in my throat, so anyway, I muted the microphone to save you guys. But so for Ken, you need to figure out why it seems boring or off. But like I said, get the first draft down, keep writing, keep going through it. The other thing is overwriting. And overwriting, not overwriting, but overwriting is when you feel like you need to explain. You need to explain again and again, or you don't feel like you're getting your point across. Like Ken, if you think that your funeral chapter is off, you might try to rewrite or overwrite. You might try to overcorrect what's wrong and write some more. And you say, this does have a lot to do with it. The drum and bugle corps play and they lead the engine to the cemetery. Okay. So that's good. That's a good thing. And so if it seems like it's boring, what can you add to it? What worst case scenario, best case scenario, what can you add? People at funerals, you always have, well, with family members, funerals are great for arguing family members. I hate to say that, but it does happen. There's always the people that are the weepy ones that can't talk to anybody. There's the ones that always stay straight and calm and need to, be in charge. Then there's the ones that standoffish. So figure out what characters you're trying to have part of your scene and give them each a part. You have, as our characters, we have players, we have actors that, actors in our stories. Give them something to do. Don't just have them stand around staring at each other. Maybe one will stand off, and maybe two will stand together and wonder, start blaming them. One might blame themselves for this situation. Someone else might blame somebody else for this situation. I know that you have a probie in there. I mean, not that it's his fault, but maybe somebody's getting upset about that. Or there's 1,000 different things. People like to displace anger by blaming people, by like I said, think of all the different scenarios that would add tension, because scenes need tension, to ramp up the action, to have some um, um, what is the word I'm trying to say? It's the dialogue that doesn't mean what it means. It's it's when you're reading between the lines. It's the subtext. two people could be talking about something that has absolutely nothing to do with the funeral, but in reality, they are talking about the funeral and they're talking about the people that have passed away or something, or the reasons that they passed away, or anger at somebody they think that set the fire or whatever. So, you can have a lot of stuff going on. Ken says they could blame the chief and the officers who were in command of the fire that led to the fire. Yes. See, yes. So think about that. Think about how they could blame the chief and the officers, and not necessarily outright blaming them, but there could be a couple people talking to themselves and riling a couple other people up. And so, while some people are trying to shush everybody, then the other ones are, and then also after the funeral, if they're having uh, like a celebration of life or a service or something like that, a lot of interesting things can happen there too. So, I mean, and it depends on how long your funeral scene is too. Um, I had a funeral scene in my last book, and it didn't last very long. It was basically just a little bit of stuff, but it was the after situation that where things ramped up quite a bit. So, you just need to figure out where you're going to put your action, your tension, what's going to move the scene forward. And remember, everything that's said, everything that happens is in there to move the story forward. So if you've got a bunch of people standing around doing nothing, then it probably can be boring because nothing's happening. Also, there's people talking about memories. There's the people that have lost family members, friends, and whatnot. So you could have a couple of them talking about, um, best memories or something. And so, there's just a lot of stuff that can happen. But the whole thing is writing and rewriting and overwriting. Those are the challenges. So when we overwrite, that's sometimes when the words are flowing, believe it or not. I mean, we've written it, but then the words are flowing so well, you just want to keep writing. And it's like it's one of those days where the muse is amazing and you're writing pages and pages and pages. And then you suddenly realize that everything you wrote could probably be one page instead of three because you're overtelling the story. And you don't want to do that. And if that's a challenge, that's when you need to have someone else look at it, an editor, a writing friend, someone to look and say, hey, these pages don't need to be here. Or this one paragraph doesn't need to be here. This one sentence, sometimes just taking out an entire sentence will make a big difference. So, it just depends on what you're going for. But like I said, my big suggestion is with a first draft, get it down as fast as possible, then go back and rewrite and add things. I always, do pretty good with this with dialogue, but I always have to go back and add description. And that's where my writing needs help. So, any other questions? Ken, do you have anything else? Oh, Ken said, so that's a thought. They do go to the armory for dinner afterwards. That's about where we're at now. So, a lot of things can happen there, you know. You can have some happy people. If alcohol is being served or anything like that, there's possibilities for people's tempers to flare a little bit. People will say things that they might not say. Now, if there's no alcohol, then you can still have people get angry. Um, people, one way to not show grief is to be, well, there's the stages of grief, and one of them is anger. And they might not be angry at you or whoever. They could be angry at the person that passed away, for not being more careful and, for leaving them behind with the kids or whatever. And that anger can be displaced on a lot of people. So, um, a lot of possibilities, a lot of possibilities. So Ken says that helps. No booze. Lots of people from around the country to pay respects to the fallen firefighters. Yeah. They still can get angry and people can get defensive, and people that have lost their loved ones can, react in very interesting ways, and friends of loved ones can act in very different ways too. I've seen families totally split apart at a funeral just because people couldn't get along. And then there's, everything that happens after that too, the people that have to go on living. So, and I know your story is more about an arsonist and the firefighters and whatnot, but they are people and they're human in your story, and they're going to have human reactions and they're going to have human emotions. So, any other questions if anybody has them? I'm trying to keep these to 15, less than 20 minutes. So, there's kind of a quick chat and question and answer. And the good thing is you always if you can always have someone look at your work, and they can always look at it with a different view, and like, this needs to stay in, this probably doesn't need to stay in, or maybe you need to explain it, or, it kind of slows down here. But like I said, the biggest thing we want to do is not overwrite, and we don't want to keep rewriting a first draft. And even when it comes to a second draft or a third draft or a fourth draft, there's only so many times you can rewrite it, and then you got to let it go and you got to keep going. Otherwise, you'd be writing the same book for 10 years like I did. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. For everyone on the replay, I really appreciate you watching. And if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the comments and I will come back later and answer them. Ken says, thank you. It covers it for us. You're welcome. Appreciate you being here. All right, everyone, take care. Thank you.